Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. And it looks like it is almost time up for Karine Jean-Pierre to diversity hire of the Biden regime. That's right. The press secretary looks like she may be on her way out. Well, she was even a half of what Circle Back Psaki was, and Circle Back Sock, he was terrible. And she was even like the discount bargain bin Jen Psaki. That's how terrible she was actually. She is a terrible press secretary. She's terrible at lying. Obviously, she can't answer any questions. And it's becoming quite obvious that the Biden regime is about to be done with her. There is a lot of turmoil right now happening in the Biden regime because of the investigations that are heating up. The Secret Service has now said they do have visitor logs. They will be turning them over to the Republican Congress. And we see lots of people looking for the exits because they know how this ends and doesn't end well for those people circling in that orbit of Joe Biden. So let's go and dive into what we have here. It says Fox News Insider says time's up for Karine Jean-Pierre. Her days are finally numbered. That's right. The diversity hire of the regime is on her, could be on her way out. We need to write news reports that Fox commentator Joe Concha believes the White House press secretary Jean-Pierre has limited time left, as her ridiculous pressers of late at the White House have continued. Contrast is asked how much longer can she continue this bob and weave contract. Respondent: not too much longer. He points out that watching the press conference briefings are painful. During one of the recent briefings, KJP was asked if she would bring a representative from the Department of Justice in to answer questions about Biden's classified document scandal. KJP told the reporter she would not, but confirmed to refer reports to the DOJ for answers. Construct called it a circle of communication where there is no communication, as the White House refuses to be forthcoming about the information and Biden's classified document scandal. Little bits of information come out slowly over days, keeping the news and the spotlight. Conscious is then asked how could she handle this better though? He gave credit to the former White House press secretary Jen Psaki, just like I said, for being able to think on her feet and was able to push back. You get the feeling from KJP that she can't answer these questions or pivot, or at least show that she knows or has some ability to grasp on what's going on. Contra replied on KJP. He went on to point out that she doesn't seem to have the ability to be contrite or humble in her responses to the press. Yep. Love or dislike her, Jen Psaki knew how to control a room in a narrative with ease that women can lie without batting an eye. When asked how long KJP has left, Concha said Biden regime will likely face her out over the next couple of months to pivot to a much better liar, John Kirby. Anyway, there you have it. The current regime is in turmoil. You're going to see a lot more firings, a lot more Brexit nations happen in the coming weeks and next couple of months because the heat is being turned on. And they know their time is becoming much more limited with the investigation that will uncover lots and lots of crimes. And this is some big news. 4.2 million migrants apprehended along southwest border under the Biden administration. Border Patrol agents apprehended a record-setting 4.2 million migrants during Biden's first 23 months in office. The apprehension of 221,000 migrants by Border Patrol agents along the southwest border during just the month of December brought the fiscal year 2023 total to 633,000 migrants in a bizarre statement released by U.S. Customs and Border Protection late Friday evening. Acting Commissioner Troy Miller wrote, quote, "The December update shows our new border enforcement measures are working." His statement followed the Friday night news dump with the release of the December Southwest Land Border Migration Report. The report, released after the close of business on Friday night, shows that Border Patrol agents apprehended 221,181 migrants during the month of December in the 9 southwest border sectors. This brought the total for the new fiscal year to 633,451. In contrast, during the entire fiscal year 2020, President Donald Trump's last full fiscal year in office, agents apprehended a total of 400,651 migrants. During Biden's most recent year in office, agents apprehended more than 2.3 million migrants, nearly 6 times that of Trump, including both Border Patrol apprehensions and CBP migrant encounters at ports of entry. The total number of migrant encounters in December hit the highest ever level, with nearly 252,000 total encounters. Commissioner Miller continued to blame other countries for the record-setting irregular migration crisis that developed immediately after Biden was sworn into office 2 years ago. In response, Laura Rice, former acting Department of Homeland Security Deputy Chief of Staff and Director of the Heritage Foundation's Border Security Team wrote, "It's easy to get lost in all the numbers. But don't let this one pass by without being shocked and outraged. Biden's border crisis is literally historic and has been for years now. But this is a simply devastating number. An increasing number of Americans putting off medical care over rising costs. An increasing number of Americans are postponing medical care and treatment over rising costs. A Gallup survey released just this week found over the last year well over 1/3 of Americans at 38% said they or a family member have put off a medical treatment due to the out-of-pocket expense. That represents a 12% increase from the 26% who said the same in 2021. That figure has fluctuated since Gallup began tracking it in 2001. That year 90% said that they had put off medical treatment due to the cost of the treatment. That figure rose 33% in 2014 and 2019. But the current level of 38% is the highest percentage ever recorded in the survey. Perhaps what is more concerning is the fact that 27% said that they delayed treatment that was for a condition considered to be either very or somewhat serious. Biden's Chief of Staff Ron Klain is expected to depart the White House very soon. Ron Klain, the White House Chief of Staff who has steered Biden's administration through 2 years, is expected to step down in coming weeks in the most significant changing of the guard since Biden took office 2 years ago. Mr. Klain has been telling colleagues privately since the November midterm elections that after a grueling non-stop stretch at Mr. Biden's side going back to the 2020 campaign, he is ready to move on, according to senior administration officials, and a search for replacement has already been underway. He has told colleagues he will stay on to the State of the Union address on February 7, and will assist with the transition of his successor. Klain's role in the White House, viewed as key to negotiating deals with Congress, given his history of having worked with Biden on Capitol Hill, was critical to Democrats' legislative victories over the last 2 years, navigating slim majorities in both chambers until the midterm elections. Klain assisted Biden's notched passage of an impressive litany of progressive Democrat priorities, including an infrastructure package, a bill pushing through an effort to break semiconductor chip manufacturing, the confirmation of U.S. Supreme Court justice, and a major Democrat-heavy spending plan at the end of 2022. While Biden's initial attempts at major big-picture legislation failed, his original Build Back Better bill did not make it through Congress. With Klain's help, he broke most of it up into pieces and passed much of Biden's agenda. Piecemeal Biden losing Klain, his trusted advisor, would be hard for him during his current documents scandal, and as the end here's a new stage where congressional Republicans, emboldened with their new House majority, seek to rip him apart politically with investigations, and they are also likely to stall out any major big-picture deals that have been on the hallmarks of the last 2 years. Russian spy ship identified off the coast of Hawaii. A Russian spy ship has been identified off the coast of Hawaii. The Coast Guard announced on Wednesday that it has been tracking what it believes is a Russian intelligence gathering ship over recent weeks off the coast of the Hawaiian Islands, and released a video of the ship refueling at sea with another Russian vessel, while foreign military vessels may transmit freely through the U.S. Economic Exclusive Zone (EEZ). As for customary international laws, foreign flags military vessels have often been observed operating and loitering within Coast Guard District 14's area of response. The U.S. Coast Guard is currently monitoring the Russian vessel operating in the vicinity of Hawaii, and Commander Dave Milne, Chief of Executive Affairs. He continues, "As part of our daily operations, we track all vessels in the Pacific area through surface and air assets and joint agency capabilities. The Coast Guard operates in accordance with international laws of the sea to ensure all nations can do the same without fear or contest. This is especially critical to secure freedom of movement and navigation throughout the Blue Pacific." Freshman U.S. Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, requests a full accounting of Biden's $120 billion to Ukraine. Freshman Republican Senator J.D. Vance is calling on the White House to release a complete audit report detailing the exact amount of financial support the United States has provided to Ukraine since February of last year, and how it has been spent as Congress weighs additional funding. "Whether you support Ukrainian funding or not, the fundamental question is we deserve and the American people deserve to know how their money is being spent, especially when we're talking about $120 billion of it, Vance said earlier this week. Vance drafted a letter addressed to the White House Office of Management and Budget Director Shalanda Young, demanding a full cross-cutting reports to provide the public with insights into how the billions of US dollars in financial assistance for Ukraine has been spent until now. Author is authorization of military force against Mexican cartels fueling fentanyl crisis is gaining support. A resolution was introduced by GOP Representatives Mike Waltz and Dan Crenshaw authorizing military action against Mexican drug cartels fueling the deadly fentanyl epidemic sweeping the United States and is gaining more co-sponsors. According to the authorization for use of military force, quote, fentanyl and fentanyl-related substances kill approximately 80,000 Americans every year and is the leading cause of death for American men between the ages of 18 and 45 years old. If passed and signed into law, the resolution would give Biden the authority to, quote, use military force against cartels based on their fentanyl trafficking and production and distribution. Also, their use of force against U.S. law enforcement and/or military of a neighboring country and/or to gain control of territory to use for their criminal enterprise. The authorization would expire 5 years after the enactment, which would require Congress to reauthorize it if needed. Indiana Republican Representative Jim Banks is the latest House member to sign on to the legislation as a co-sponsor. Representative Banks stated, quote, fentanyl traffickers have killed more Americans in the past year than the Viet Cong did during the entire Vietnam War. Instead of putting a stop to it, Joe Biden has ceded control of the U.S. territory on our border to these murderous gangs. Republicans in Congress need to work with the next president to use any means necessary, including mobilizing our armed forces to stop the cartels that have poisoned hundreds of thousands of Americans. Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts below. And hit subscribe right now. Thank you again. Thank you.